Until you face your ego, you will never truly be free. Not the self-absorbed braggart who shares motivational sayings online, disregarding the courteous ego that flashes a smile during meetings. Not the charismatic ego that knows how to get people's attention but never earns their respect. No, I mean the one that ducks its head under your brow. That voice that says you're better than them, and then, right after, it says you'll never be enough. That one that elevates your fantasy deity status while making you feel like a fraud in real life. The one who gilds your sorrow and refers to it as a personality. The one who constructs fortresses out of defensive devices and then locks you within. As Jung wisely put it, the experience of a self is always a defeat for the ego because the self, the real, you cannot breathe in the same room as your ego's throne. One must fall for the other to rise. And such empires do not break with silence. They battle, yell, and burn. See, getting ready for battle is the only way to achieve true peace. The kind that starts in solitude, rather than a battleground. As soon as the background noise stops and you can see only your reflection. Plus, it's unflattering. You are faced with it. All of your performance metrics are laid out for you. You pull off every mask you wear so well that people nearly fail to notice the real you. Every display of power that was actually an act of intimidation masquerading as control. Afraid to be exposed, every show of humility was actually an act of pride. Most individuals avoid looking into this mirror. What you came here for was not to flee, though. The reason you've come here is to get back what you've lost. If you, liberation, your voice, and your passion. And, destroying is where reclamation begins. The annihilation of all your creations in an effort to shield yourself from emotional pain. Reason being vulnerable is too dangerous for the ego. Accountability will destroy it. It will crumble the second you acknowledge that I am the mastermind behind my own misery. At that very second, the enchantment ends. When you will no longer hold the world responsible for your continued enabling. Once you come to terms with the fact that the individuals who betrayed you did not harm you, your attachment to whatever they stood for, like the urge to always be right, to have your feelings acknowledged, and to never feel helpless. Well, that's the ego's go-to vice. Control. Take charge of the story. Manage how people see it. Manage the harm by adjusting the gap between your real and fake selves. However, your agony will increase in proportion to the distance. Therefore, you are not broken if you are suffering. The reason is that you're not united. Furthermore, repairing oneself requires navigating the debris of one's pride. Be ready for confrontation, not comfort, since that's what's coming next. Submitting is not easy for the ego. No amount of politeness will get it to fold. And it battles. Negotiations are undertaken by it. In doing so, it manipulates. The message is clear. You've done enough. This is just who you are. At least you're better than them. The process of healing is tedious and time-consuming. Take it easy. Pain is necessary for healing, though. This occurs when there is physical discomfort. When you quit making excuses about how busy you are, it will happen. When you quit measuring your progress against that of people who you've never had the courage to look within, but when you do, you'll realize that all your stories about your limitations have been fabrications, shaped by your fears and inflated by your ego. You claimed, this is just how I am wrong. That's actually how your ego stays alive. So you claimed, I don't need anyone. Well, that's just your ego trying to hide. It was you who claimed they don't merit my pardon. Your ego uses your suffering as fuel to remain powerful. That's all. And you might end up basing your whole life on it if you're not cautious. Those barriers. As a profession, it's all about covering up. A relationship that is based on controlling or reliant behavior. A persona crafted to garner praise. Desolate in stillness. That does not constitute an identity. Armor, that is, armor protects, but it also cuts you off from the world. It blocks out all possibilities, including love, truth, and change. Your desire for freedom is essentially a declaration that you are prepared to let down your guard. Rest assured, though, it will be excruciating, because releasing one's pride involves command is demise. Giving up certainty is the same as dying. It is death to let up of one's sense of superiority, performance, or perfection. On the other hand, rebirth can't begin until death takes place. Reincarnation is impossible so long as you persist in fooling yourself into thinking you're immune to harm. Clinging to every narrative that defends your ego's throne prevents you from evolving. To rise, you must first fall. Ultimately, the truth will triumph over you. To finally face your shadow, you must bow down and declare, I am prepared to cease the deceitful behavior I've been engaging in. When one's authentic self, the one hiding behind personas, identities, and performances, begins to surface, everything you believed was essential would be lost to that awakening, but it will provide you with all the genuine stuff. The moment your true self emerges, there is no turning back. Your perspective on life will shift from one of response to one of responsibility. You'll feel ashamed of your approval-seeking habits when you start to see where it led you. You'll start to observe. Discussions progress. You'll see that a lot of individuals talk just to keep their reputations intact, not to let their true self shine through. And it is in that realization that your former self will begin to wither. On a daily basis, not sometimes. Every time you speak your mind, he perishes rather than gains popularity. He perishes every time you confess error rather than preserving your dignity. For every time you prioritize inner serenity above outside authority, he meets his demise. This death is holy. Disintegration of the ego, a painful but essential process. It will feel like losing, I'll bet. You feel less secure. Being correct. You will not experience the euphoria of superiority. When you let go of your superiority complex, you give up the exhilaration of control and the rush of pretending. However, something unique appears in its stead. Simple language. A lucidity that slashes through delusion. The things you used to enjoy are now intolerable due to the clarity. The power of clarity is immense. Because of this, some people may feel uneasy. Not because you lack humility, but because they haven't emerged from the mist yet. The problem about waking up is that it sets you apart. Reason being, the majority of individuals aren't prepared to face their egos. Instead of reflecting, they want to project. They would prefer to remain calm than break. Instead of enduring the agony of freedom, they would choose to remain enslaved. Not you, though. Because you've had enough of performing, you've come here. Being authentic rather than staged is what draws you here. Something within you is stronger than the voice of fear, and that is why you are here. Further, it has nothing to do with your pride. You are who you are. That's all. It is an indestructible aspect of who you are. Once the din dies down, it's a component that mutters softly. Extra is out there, and I'm prepared to be it. Because change isn't a sunrise, you must continue to face the flames. It's the explosive disintegration of the persona you've cultivated over the years. You will stand there, naked and broken, but still sovereign when the dust settles. Seeking tranquility by controlling outcomes will no longer be your goal. When you find love, you won't have to compromise your values to get it. After seeing this, you will understand that volume does not equal value, prestige does not equal worth, and attention does not equal intimacy. Showing the ego its true colors. In the midst of chaos, a young prince or princess cries out for help. A facade that falls when you overcome your fear of being observed. Following this, your gait will change. Calm down, not because you're scared, but because you're firmly planted. I am bolder, not because I have all the answers, but because I have accepted the fact that I will never have. Feeling lighter, not because things became easier, but because you let go of something that was never rightfully yours to bear. And people will take note. A number of. Be impressed by it. Sure, some people will be mad about it. Some people will attempt to reintegrate you into the same old circle, the same old dynamics, and the same old persona that they used when they were safe. However, once you've experienced life free of the ego's control, you won't want to return because every disguise feels stifling. Every falsehood is toxic. If you listen to any of the excuses, they all seem like betrayal. You are become increasingly untouchable, not because of your haughtiness, but because of your completeness. When the ego crumbles, the soul takes the lead, not merely speaks. As the spirit guides, all things fall into place. Changes. All of a sudden, you can see more clearly. Boundaries become more firm. No longer does your vitality seep into spaces that are unable to contain your authenticity. You respond, not react. No, you embody, you don't perform. You transform, not prove. This does not inspire trust. It is crystal clear. You can't be sure of anything, but you can be sure of yourself no matter what happens. Freedom, in its purest form, is not an absence of fear, but rather its mastery. It is not the eradication of the ego, but its integration. In other words, rather than killing the ego in an effort to annihilate it, one should face it head-on. Once you free yourself from it, you'll realize that bowing, chasing, and hiding behind armor were never your intended actions. You were destined to stand tall, unguarded, unabashed, unstoppable. Then we could bring an end to what the ego can't handle. I say this because we are not at the climax, but at the consecration. When you stop reacting and start living, that's when your life becomes a revelation. You have grown up and are no longer dependent on others' approval. Has ceased to be the man who twisted his soul into shapes. To approve. No longer the stage performer who, no matter how much applause she receives, will never be able to fill the silence. Now you're the fire. The burden of your own becoming rests on you. You defy all requests like a hurricane. Freedom isn't about being able to do anything you want and you finally get it. It's about facing your fears and breaking free from their grip. There was never a time when ego was a threat. When you were confused about your identity, it served as a necessary mask. That armor was your lifeline until you mustered the courage to. In real time, but at this moment, it is unnecessary. A power greater than pride resides within you. You are self-aware. Fire has been a part of your journey. I assure you, you did not request sexual assault. You were unfazed as you stood before the mirror. Block by block, lie after lie, you confronted your inner empire and allowed it to burn. Now you get to build again, but this time you do it with honesty, not with fire, not with illusions, but with integrity. Less is more when it comes to your speech. You will not be as swift. Then continue on. Your efforts to be. Finally get it and start making your presence known. That's the result of facing your ego head-on. Instead of only acting out your power, you must begin to embody it. So, look back at the you that equated power with dominance for a last time. Identity served as a shield, while silence denoted dominance. Acknowledge his kindness. Here he has you. Additionally, he is not permitted to proceed. He concludes here. And thus the self-starter is born, complete, untamed, and free. Also, you will never again conflate your ego with your identity after today. You will always overcome your fears. Put on the headdress that is truly yours. The only way to truly liberate yourself is to face your ego, which you now know you must do. Plus, you're set free now that you have. Rise up and keep on walking. Now we stand at the doorway, not to victory, but to the truth. As you droop, you stand on the brink of all that is false. The ruins of every disguise you ever believed you needed to stay alive lie beneath you. Quietly, the ego crumbled. In fact, it is never effective. An eerie sound resounded outside. It implored. It battled tooth and nail to maintain its relevance for years. It sounded like you. You wore it as a shield for many years. For a long time, it was all about you. Well, it's no longer under your control. This is not a jail. I don't know who you are. Why? Because you have the guts to do what most people never have the courage to accomplish. Your gaze remained fixed within, unwavering. You muted the background noise and could make out your own breathing. You confronted the magician after stepping behind the curtain. Little, uncertain, scared. It was at that very second that you understood the ego was weak. Everyone could hear it. Suddenly, it went silent. And it was in that stillness that you discovered who you really are. The one whose sense of worth is not contingent on being right all the time. That person who doesn't display their character through their usage of suffering. Someone who knows their value without seeking praise. The one who has spent years beneath the spotlight and is now waiting for their moment to shine. The curtain has finally come down. And there you are, completely roused from your slumber. When people fail to grasp his meaning, this is the guy who remains unfazed. Even the most truthful people sometimes feel the need to apologize. Who can make his own place his own without taking over the room, is stronger in his own identity than any mask he ever wore. What follows next? You are no longer an afterthought, a mask, or an echo of someone else's expectation. Rather, you are a powerful, independent force in the world. Your speech has changed, slightly more subdued, because the pressure of your reputation is no longer an issue for your voice. If you listen closely, you may hear the voice of a guy who has overcome his demons and emerged stronger. You no longer walk at a faster pace, but with more upright posture, due to running away from something is no longer your goal. You've broken free from the chains of conforming to fit in, to be secure, and to be little enough to be swallowed. At last, you're living your life to the fullest, fearlessly, and the world will take note. People around you will perceive your newfound clarity as a sign of aggression. Some will make an effort to bring out your past self in you. Because it reveals their chains, some will hate your freedom. Your journey is no longer about maintaining a pleasant demeanor, so let them go. Living one's truth is key. This, however, is the reality. It is you. Should never have allowed ego to govern them. The idea of making your prison a home and decorating it was never intended for you. It was never your purpose to be calm as mayhem unfolds behind you. In order to ascend uncovered, unashamed, and untouchable, you were meant to confront the lie, demolish the false self, and slay the mask. Get up. Stand taller than the people who try to mold you into someone you weren't always capable of being. The person you were before the world pushed you to forget who you were. Until you face your ego, you will never be free. Plus you was and are today. Proceed without ever donning that mask again. Seeking illusory possessions is not your calling. You were never supposed to wander aimlessly across deserts of self-destruction, pleading with the world to grant you your unfulfilled potential. My dear, you are destined to captivate. The world can't turn a blind eye to the intensity of your own being. That is where you were supposed to be. The pursuit of wealth is not a motivating factor. There's a magnetic force between it. Charm isn't a matter of chance. Charm is not it. To be in harmony with one's identity, concerning your beliefs, your tolerance, and, above all, your refusal to tolerate. The desperate do not inherit wealth. The disciplined do. Its trajectory is toward the deliberate rather than the boisterous. It finds its way to the man whose worth is measured not by his needs, but by his output. Authenticity, worth, transparency, and assurance. These are forms of money that are more highly esteemed than fiat currency. You were taught to sprint. Be more active, run faster, and sweat more. But motion and momentum are not the same thing. One depletes your energy, some entices the entire universe. Attempting to persuade others of your value will not bring you wealth. Becoming the man everyone can't help but notice will bring it to you. Where internal strife terminates is where magnetism starts. An internally split man can never be a commanding presence. Contrary to what he says, he lives a lie. He longs for plenty, but is filled with dread. Even though he still needs affirmation on the inside, he exudes confidence. Furthermore, the cosmos is exact. It fails to provide the desired outcome. If you want to know what you reflective surface, the well does not give in to temptation. Power entices it. Power is not background noise. Consistency is key. One whose spirit has found peace with its dark side. A mind that is unflappable under duress. Being in their presence is like being in deep, tranquil, and unfuckable water. Kill the part of yourself that believes you can't thrive without money if you want to attract more of it. Kill him. Lay to rest the one who constructs just to garner praise. Those who compare, copy, and chase should be mourned. The next step is to bring back something different, something independent, something static, something that can identify it without being asked, shown, or given evidence. That is the contradiction, after all. Things you stop chasing eventually find you. When you stop caring about something, it stops drawing to you. I don't think you've given up. Rather, you've grown into an unapproachable man with pure ideas, well-integrated emotions, and unwavering values. Opportunity does not come to the rich by begging. They make gravity work. And everything is drawn to it by gravity, not by willpower, but by very nature. Therefore, correct who you truly are. Everything else, including your profile, pitch, and marketing funnel, is wrong. Set a regular schedule. Due to the fact that frequency is always accurate. It explains why certain guys can just step into a room and make it warmer or cooler. I don't understand why certain people talk, but nothing changes. I don't understand why some people can develop empires in quiet, while others can't stop shouting. Screaming won't get you noticed. You must strike a chord. Alignment allows for resonance to occur. From deciding that your values are not negotiable. Your tranquility is worth more than a pricey purse. That your influence will grow in the background, purified through the crucible and unveiled only when the time is right. Riches are drawn to this method. Instead of acting, one must embody. You can't amass wealth by pursuit. Get a source, and you will get rich. The wellspring of understanding, the foundation of order, the nursery of tranquility, and the nursery of fruition. You stopped begging and started becoming when you became the source. So the world had no choice but to come to you. You began to build your own personality and cut down on consumption. Principles that are unique to you. Lane, you no longer pursue. Instead, you make a selection. Tolerance is a personal choice. What you build is up to you. Once you grasp the concept, you have complete control over what enters your home. Your surroundings are more than just scenery. The object serves as both a mirror and a magnet. Your beliefs about yourself are shown by the things you let into your life. The rich man doesn't like to live in luxury. He puts himself in a pressure cooker. Pressure, not disorder or din. The kind that sharpens, disciplines, and forges clarity. Intuition sharp as a sword, for he is aware that in the realm of ease, worth perishes. Additionally, resistance is the mother of magnetism. If you want to be a man, you have to learn to endure stress without crumbling. No one can bear quiet for long without feeling the need to fill it. The ability to face uncertainty with composure and a level head is a rare commodity. No flinching from the magnetic man. He takes his time. Because he has already become, he waits. And chasing is unnecessary once you've achieved complete, unapologetic ruthlessness. Having money comes to who you are, because you rewrote your own code, not because you beat the algorithm. Your every move is now being mirrored by that code. Their instruction is not prompted by your words. You don't beg with your proposals. You invite. Instead of shouting, your presence grounds. Think of it as the invisible economy. Identities are money. The game of pool-related psychology. No one ever teaches in class. Reason being, educational institutions function much like factories. They show you the ropes of production, not ownership. You learn to follow orders, not to take charge. However, you have grown out of that system. Nobody uses you. You serve as an example. Nobody follows you. You're the flag bearer. So let the rest go after them. Empower them to seek out scraps. Give them the freedom to decorate their cage as they see fit. Develop the force of gravity. Sitting quietly, you observe. Keep your composure. As soon as you do, everything changes. No, it's not because you raise your voice. It wasn't because you pleaded. It was because your transformation became indiscernible. Experiencing this is like being a magnet. Wealth bows down to the individual who knows himself in this way. Not an escort, but a guy who decides. A guy who has realized he can live his life without music. A guy who values honesty more than fame. Someone whose stride is not meant for the masses, daring to walk through the tempest without looking behind to see if anyone is observing. For the throne they are intended, and no one is born into the throne. People do not inherit it. You earn it by being silent, by asserting your sovereignty, and by mercilessly letting go of everything that isn't you. Because he is so unpredictable, the magnetic guy is a source of global terror. Bribery will not influence him. comfort. Trends have no power over him. Any wealth he draws is just a reflection of the unseen empire he has already built within. Asking what you need to do to attract prosperity is a waste of time. Determine your role model. Truthfully, not as a strategy, for the sake of reality rather than outcomes. Why? Because a magnetic man doesn't put any effort into being that way. He doesn't think about how to make an impression. Neither does he put on an act or take pride in how he appears. Just be that. His charm isn't part of his game plan. It lies in the tranquility of his insight, his unwavering stance while others compromise for praise. The kind of man who draws women in. The reason being that he aligned, not because he asked. He isn't attracting riches to himself. Truth is being drawn closer to reality by him. And the truth is unavoidable. Marketing is unnecessary. It can be left alone. It is not gullible. It retains its status. And when you stand tall and proud without looking for approval from anyone, you transform into the center, not the echo, not the follower, but the source. Also, money never goes missing from its origin because it is aware of its proper place. Because the man who hustles aimlessly does not own riches, true wealth. Whoever hosts the frequency of plenty is the rightful owner of it. Not in the theoretical sense, but as an attitude, a mode of expression based on self-possession. A demeanor that exudes dignity, a method of decision-making that slashes through diversion like a foghorn. This guy has no intention of winning. It is not hubris, but alignment that he expects it. The price has already been paid. He never longer engages with the same old, even when it was comfortable. He prefers to be alone than in superficial company. He has buried the humanity that groveled, sank, and broke at the altar of superficial approval. A man shaped by fire is all that is left. A guy whose spirit no longer needs praise because he has repeatedly opted for discipline over dopamine. It yearns for reaction. Because you will never want to go back to relying on others for guidance after experiencing what it's like to lead from the center, to act in alignment, and to develop with purpose platforms that aim to deprive you of food. Resistance manifests as magnetism. The independent self is rising up in rebellion. That is, it's a defiance of the algorithm of compliance. It declares, I will not pursue what I already am. I will not pursue what I've already become. I am a signal. I am the standard. I am the wealth. So let them chase. Let them drown in performance. Let them sell out their essence for a seat at someone else's table. You build a presence so dense it becomes gravity. You become so real the world cannot digest you. Pay attention to you. Because when you attract wealth, it's not just about receiving it. It's about redefining it. You transform it into something sacred, grounded in truth, not just having more, but being more. That's the ultimate secret, the throne no one can ever take. The world awaits that man, even if he doesn't yet realize it. So, quit running, chasing, and knocking. Just stand still. Build your frequency, sharpen your clarity, own your identity, and observe what comes your way. Behold you when you cease watering down your presence to make it more palatable. Behold what you encounter when you cease negotiating from a position of weakness. Behold what you encounter when you cease to apologize for your power, pace, and pain-transformed purpose. For at that point, you do not draw money, but movements. You do not construct businesses, but realms. You do not manage impressions, but bend perception itself. This is not the superficial allure of trends or tricks, but core-level gravitational pull, and it cannot be taught through formulas. It must be forged in solitude, silence, and the storm. Magnetism is not the end result, but the reward for the man who chose to become unshakable when everything told him to shatter. For the man who stared into the abyss and created a bridge instead of collapsing. This man owns time because he no longer spends it. He invests it in becoming, in building, and bleeding for a vision that no one else sees until they do. And when they finally see, it's too late. By that point, he has already become the vision, the authority, and the system. The world can continue to seek hex, but it should stop trying to find shortcuts to results it hasn't earned. Instead of seducing, it should command. Attracting people doesn't require pretense. It requires becoming the most uncompromising version of yourself. That's the essence of magnetism, the product of every unseen decision you made when no one was looking. It echoes discipline, smells of self-respect, and is the aftermath of alignment. What remains after the world tried to divert your attention, and you said, "No, I know who I am now." And from that place of knowing, of unwavering clarity, everything you once pursued now turns and moves toward you. Not because it possesses you or is convinced of your worth, but because you are now inevitable. Because wealth isn't merely material, it's spiritual. And money isn't the be-all and end-all. It's a reflection of your energy, alignment, integrity, or lack thereof. You can change your life. If you seek wealth based on ego, fear, or insecurity, you may succeed, but it will be at the cost of your soul. Pursuing wealth without soul will own you, dictating your choices, distorting your identity, and destroying your peace. The rich man who lacks spirituality is like a beggar dressed in better clothes. He may appear successful on the outside, but he is spiritually bankrupt, meaningless, addicted to noise, and haunted by the silence he avoids. On the other hand, pursuing wealth without soul will own you, dictate your choices, distort your identity, and destroy your peace. True wealth does not come from material possessions, but from the character one has developed to possess them, from the integrity with which one has acquired them, and from the degree to which one's conscience remains untarnished when one counts it. True wealth begins the moment one realizes that one's soul and one's strategy are not distinct, but rather married, and when they are not in conflict with one another, one's wealth becomes untouchable. When they come together, your money transforms into light. It amplifies your essence, broadens your voice, and increases your reach. Your wealth is no longer based on force, but on truth. Instead of manipulating or impressing, you inspire, and instead of extracting, you elevate. This is spiritual wealth, not monetary wealth, but a soul print. It's not about your possessions, but about your presence and legacy. And this level of wealth cannot be measured in terms of material wealth. It cannot be taken, replicated, or imitated because it is intrinsic to your being. It emerges from facing your shadows, accepting them, embracing them, forgiving yourself, and raising the bar for the energy you allow to govern your life. Not fear, not greed, not scarcity, but truth, clarity, service, and power. The kind of power that is quiet, noble, and kind. It is a power that doesn't need to dominate because it has already mastered itself. And from that vantage point, you become not only wealthy, but threat to every system ever constructed. A test of your soul, not your strategy or hustle, will begin as your wealth grows. Money doesn't change you, it reveals you. It puts a spotlight on everything unresolved, your identity. You are both the mirror and the magnet, reflecting and attracting what others are afraid to see and what others spend their lives chasing. That's wealth, divinity, and you. Remembering who you were before the world made you forget is a challenge. When you've done the inner work, when you've faced your shadow, healed your history, and decided to remain whole, then money will no longer own you. You will own it. You will wield it like a blade of light, clean, sharp, and purposeful, to fund movements, not just indulgences. You will build empires that transcend addictions, wounds, pride, and shame. Your ego will listen to it and believe you're invincible. But if your soul is rooted in truth, then you will listen. You'll rise on the outside while decaying within, unless you do the inner work. The key is to be authentic, not just about what you want. Instead of entering rooms to prove yourself, you should enter to protect what matters. When you speak, people will sense that your voice isn't fueled by greed, but by wisdom. Because ultimately, it's not about chasing or earning, but about becoming someone so aligned that wealth finds you. Integrating yourself to the point where money becomes a sacred tool, not a mask, a trap, or a crutch. And one day, when you look in the mirror, there will be no audience, no applause, no performance, just you. I am the magnet, the source, and the riches. When you can say that, The world will finally reply, "Welcome home." You will say it with calm, not pride. I have nothing to seek, prove, or hide.